Hey, it's Les for the TV Dudes. We're at AFF, the Austin Film Festival, which has been a great time, and we've gotten to chat with some really cool folks. This time, I'm sitting down with Counterpart creator Justin Marks, as well as Counterpart producer and writer Erin Levy. Erin worked on Mad Men, and Justin, of course, wrote Jon Favreau's recent Jungle Book movie, and we had just come out of watching the Counterpart Season 2 premiere at the State Theater. We were on the rooftop of the Westin Hotel, and I apologize for the bit of wind that made it into the recording. It's a great chat, and I hope you enjoy.
I have to say, this looks pretty other side.
Yeah, we would use this for the other side of this recorder.
You want me to take a picture of it?
I'm going to.
I really don't want Season 2 spoiled for me, so I don't really have any questions about where it's going to go, particularly.
But I'm happy to talk about it. I do no, but okay, yes, fine. Yes, I'm more than happy to talk about all the things that we did. But more than anything, I think we should talk about theme. We could talk about. Is that spoilery?
No.
We could talk about. There's a bunch of stuff, but you just feel it. We won't spoil it.
We all just got to watch episode 1 of Season 2. Was that the first time have y'all seen much of this show with a crowd?
We watched the premiere of the first, we watched it obviously with a huge crowd, but we watched some of the episodes in the first season with our new writer's room, but that's really not the same thing.
Let finish, please. Yeah. You want to finish too? They don't have the full right. Yeah. That was about it. I mean, I guess, but yeah, when did we watch it with the I don't even.
Because didn't it start airing when we were already in the room for season 2? I think we watched it when it aired with our
We brought everyone over. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about that. I know you, coming from feature writing, TV was a bit new for you, but Counterpart's gestation period was not normal for most television shows. We all had a lot of time, it sounded like, to prep the rules and get the guidebook ready, have the Bible ready.
When did we? I mean, let's get specific on that.
Was that odd for your first TV experience? Did you keep kind of feeling like I'm learning TV, but this is weird?
Yeah, no, I'm more curious from the point of view of someone who has been in TV rooms before, who would know it. I mean, I will just say for me, because we came into the room in July, I want to say, it would have been 2015.
Yeah.
Yes, July of 2015. We started shooting in October of 2016. So, that's well over a year to write the season. And for me, that's just writing a feature. I mean, that's how long it takes. It'll take that long to write 2 hours sometimes. So, at least if it's me writing it. So, I think that it didn't feel particularly unusual, but I have a feeling from a TV perspective, it must have been a very hard thing to sort of do you feel like you're I remember that there were writers in the first season who were feeling uneasy with the amount of time we had, because it was where are we? We're just an arbitrary point in between infinite goals or something, as opposed to we're shooting next week.
Versus the production schedule of Mad Men? Was it a sudden different change for you?
It was very different because we had so much time and there was so much. You had the ability to say, we'll just figure that out later, which is crazy. Instead of
figure that out now. Yeah.
Right, putting your heads together and doing it, and then and also we had sort of 2 separate room sessions. We had the first session where we broke all 10 episodes and wrote most of them.
Yeah, 7.
And then we had some time off and we came back to the room to finish everything. So then you could, those things that we had said we'll figure it out later, then we figured it out then. Yeah. It was so different to do it that way.
Someone mentioned in the panel the subtlety of the sci-fi for it and how much of a Cold War spy novel it is. It just, like you said in the panel,
the Berlin Wall just happens to be between dimensions instead of between halves of a city. Knowing you had 2 seasons from the start and having that much time to break the episodes, were you able to break it across both seasons, or was that too far out to extrapolate? Did the road change for too much?
I'm trying to think of what we knew going, and the biggest thing was like we knew that the second season would in a major way be about the Emily we never knew, right? The woman who was in the coma, just sort of learning all these things about her. It was funny because we were laughing, I think, at the screening that like trailer thing that we aired before the first episode was supposed to actually air after the first episode, so it felt like next on.
What else is coming in the season?
And skipped it. But that was one thing, and I think then the other big thing that we knew was going to happen in the second season was I'm trying to think of the least spoilery word, a decoding of the backstory of management and the Office of Interchange and the crossing itself in a lot of ways, like finally understanding how things came to be and why they came to be that way. As we also understand, our villains and their plot and what's really going on here.
Something that I particularly loved in the first season is the same thing that I loved about like time travel movie like Primer. It's not so much about the mechanics of how your time machine works. It's about how you as a human really don't roll with this very well.
Yeah.
And so I was thrilled in this first episode of season 2 to see someone get read in properly, or more closer to properly.
Yeah.
Because you know that Howard's read in. They'll say that in season 1 of like, this is not how I'm supposed to tell you this. Most people flip out.
Yes.
And then they just read him in. And so I was glad to see like the first person to run into their other and some of these background things.
We're by the way, so glad you noticed that, because that was like something that, from the very beginning when we were talking about that was like, wouldn't it be fun to just really see the formal process of a read-in, for real this time? Like,
did y'all have a favorite extrapolation out from the story of, you've got this premise of 2 dimensions and then you're making people live in them, and as you're writing these characters and realizing, oh wow, a coma victim might think that they have cat breast syndrome because this other person really isn't their person. And, that's a delusion that in our world, but would be real for Emily now.
Yeah. She's being gaslit. She's actually being gaslit. Like, if I'm thinking.
It's her condition.
But if she ever remembers enough, she does know about it's not like she's not read in. So there could be even more shoes to drop on what she remembers. It really excited me. Was there a favorite kind of balloon out of like, oh, I didn't even see that side street there, and now it's an avenue that y'all can go down? Was there a favorite moment like that when y'all were writing?
It's like every storyline is that. No, but it is. It's like Baldwin, Claire, Quayle, for that matter. Without getting into spoilers.
Yeah. I think Quinn and Claire in general is one of those really big ones. I think consistently we're finding new things for them that we're surprised we're able to do that and make that new again.
Yeah. I was twice surprised by Quayle in season 1. Both the drinking too much at the party, which I wanted to fist bump in the air of like, I know you're doing it wrong, I know you're screwing up, but he wanted to see you have that smile. And then the car wreck was the other utter shock moment. That not that I didn't see the event happening, but I didn't see the fallout going the way y'all did. And it's part of what's made this show so exciting for me. In this episode, you have a moment where Howard says to Emily, you make bad things good. Or I can't remember the exact line, but you make bad things good again. And it talking about a Chinese restaurant anecdote from their first date, but it's so true about Howard as well, and what she pulled back out of a darker Howard from the others. It spoke to the larger human relationship in the show, separate from the sci-fi elements. Was there, separate from writing a sci-fi show, was there a favorite human moment that either of you got to put down in season 1 or 2?
Well, speaking to that, and Erin wrote that scene so beautifully, and it is in a lot of ways, a callback to the first episode of the first season, because while sweet as it is, we didn't talk about Sweepy today. Okay,
Oh, that would have been a...
Yeah, sweet as it is, the scene between them, Prime is stealing every bit of that anecdote from Howard Alpha in the first episode, the one he told him. So, I mean, it's a total bullshit lie that, also works. And I don't know, I mean, for me at least, without getting specifics, like a moment like that in episode 1 of season 2, really speaks to this idea, and I won't attribute it in any way, but like that you can sort of exist in two states. You can be a bastard and a good husband at the same time, that you can love someone and hate them at the same time, which, goes to another episode that's... I'm really... Erin's like really watching out. I'm going deep in the season. But it's these sort of dual states where it's like, I think we should... we have this term in the writer's room, and it's called sweepy, which is this mix of sweet and creepy that works together. And I think, there's this sweet moments between Howard Prime and Emily Alpha, but she doesn't know who he is. I mean, this is essentially a non-consensual relationship she's in here, under totally fraudulent terms. And yet, I think if we're doing our job, I think we want to see them grow closer, because I think there is something that works about them, but it's wrong. And one might say the same thing about the other two as well. So I don't know. That's the kind of stuff that works for me. I don't know.
No, I was actually thinking that one of my favorite moments to get to write in that regards was season 1, episode 4, when Howard and Emily Prime have already agreed to help each other, and he's leaving her apartment, and they're so cute together. Yeah. And it's really the first time that you get to see these two characters be with each other in a way that you understand they used to really get along. But that's not his wife. His wife is in a coma, and she's divorced from her version of him. And that was a really nice moment, I felt. And then they also brought it to life. JK and Olivia. Yeah,
they've got such great chemistry. It's so easy to write for them. And boy do we, this season, the two of them together, all versions. And, I don't know, they have this ability to really feel like their relationship is lived in, which is so crucial, because so often with, your lead couple, if they're a little awkward around each other, it just ruins the sort of heart and soul of it. And with them, it's for me at least, it's like watching the cutest parents ever. And that's kind of the idea, is there's something very wholesome about that relationship that Howard Prime completely undermines and subverts by gaslighting her. That stuff really came alive.
I know y'all had mentioned kind of the point system on sci-fi-ness and not wanting to turn it into just a giant laser shooting craziness. Was there ever an image you had in your head, something like, I want to see two guys on opposite sides of class reading lines to each other, or the sci-fi scenes that you just realized in the writer's room, we can't get there. I can't arc the show over to that cool looking scene, and we've got to ditch it.
Yes.
7 minutes in heaven?
Yeah, 7 minutes in heaven. No, that's it. I feel like we should, because I want to do it someday, but I feel like we're moving the narrative past it. But we used to have this idea called 7 Minutes in Heaven that we really loved, which was like a teaser that showed how someone was manipulated into giving information away to the other side, and the idea was, with no context whatsoever, to drop some very emotional looking man into an interface room, and they would say you have 7 minutes or whatever it is, and turn an hourglass. That was the other thing, and watch the sands in the hourglass going down as the door opposite opens and a young child was brought in. And it was we kind of took it for the Casper story, I think is what happened in season 1.
We did it more as he verbally tells the story, and it's his backstory.
Exactly, but it was this idea he got to see the son he never had, or the son he lost, and they would just let him spend 7 minutes with him at a time, and for that 7 minutes he would pay anything informationally. He would give anything away. So that was I don't know, that was definitely one I don't think we'll ever be able to get back to.
That's beautiful. It's perfect spycraft, but it could only happen in Counterpart.
Yes, which was the +1 aspect of the episodes.
I love the boring bureaucracy of everything, and
all the wrong things.
Discovering this. This is the folks that were already running Potsdamer that discovered this. And one last question before we wrap up. In terms of keeping the sci-fi down and making sure that it feels grounded and real, there's not really a need for you to ever explain how the world's broke or how of these larger questions, were any of these burning for you, or is it just a setup and you're enjoying telling stories in it? There's something about unreliable narrators that I love in books where they don't have to be lying.
Yeah.
They just have to admit that they don't actually know what's happening.
Yeah.
And there's really no one in Counterpart that I've met yet that I'm sure if they said this is what is happening, that their character should really know. And I started to wonder, like, I don't need this question answered. I didn't know if y'all did.
No, it's interesting. I think, and we'll tread very lightly, which should already give enough away just by me saying that, except to say that we've always wanted to, I think the best thing a show can do is give people what they want in a way they never expected it. You know, like, that's the key. It's not sort of giving it, like, okay, here's the scene where some, like, old man sits down and explains to you how the whole crossing came to be. I think what we aim to achieve, and I won't beat around it this season, is a kind of hints of origins, and in some cases more than hints, that are not at all what we really thought was going on here. And you know, some people may guess certain things, but I don't think they'll see what's coming. You know, let's just say we've got some very sort of special standalone episodes coming this season that I think are going to be really fun as people who are really tuned into the show will start to see, because we get to reference a lot of detail, and that's as much as I'll say about that. But I got to direct an episode this season, so I'm very excited about one in particular.
Well, thank you both so much for taking out the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for, seriously, from a place of, we really give this show, as writers here, such a close read in the way we try to execute it, and it means so much when people read it so closely, because it's there, and we're really
feel
trying
that craft in there. I remember hearing an interview after Lord of the Rings came out with the Weta guys talking about putting inscriptions on the backs of the buttons of the costumes. They were like, is this on camera? Absolutely not possible. There's no way this ever shows up on camera. But they felt like it helped the actors pretend to be orcs or elves or whatever they needed to be. And if you've got the time, you've got to do it. And I loved hearing that Counterpart took that. When y'all had that time in season 1, that you took that time and you could feel it in the show.
No, we really, it's a very, and it's not just for the actors, by the way. I feel that way. We do it for the audience too, when it comes to and this, they've all heard this analogy a million times, but there's this column in Rome, which I finally got to see in real life, called Trajan's Column, which is this account of the Emperor Trajan's war victories, and whether they're true or not is irrelevant. You see this giant column and you can't even read what's written at the very top, but you look at it all and you're like, someone built that in extreme detail. I'm going to go ahead and take their word for it, that's a real thing that happened. And I think that's important. It's important to tell stories that way, where you build it to that small detail where even the phone extensions have resonance, and it's or where they stamp, as you were hearing earlier, on the Visa, the Visa sign, where they stamp it, someone knows the logic behind that, which means it feels real. Yeah. And that's the key, and it allows us to do fun things with it narratively, as we start to, play with things as well. So, I hope people keep paying attention to it.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener-supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.